Welcome, YouTubers, to another episode in my Grammar Hero series. In today's video, we're going to talk about the order of operations, which is a topic that has a very high likelihood of appearing in the mathematics knowledge subtest of the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery. That is the ASVAB. In case this is your first time finding my channel, I just want to mention that right now I'm in the process of creating videos for all the topics that are going to appear on the mathematics knowledge as well as the arithmetic reasoning subtest of the ASVAB. By the end of July, I should have all those videos on my channel. And once I do, I can then recommend an order in which you should watch those videos to prepare for the ASVAB. All that said, let's get started with today's video. As I mentioned, we're going to be talking about order of operations. And it's very helpful to remember the order of operations by using the mnemonic device, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, where P stands for parentheses, E stands for exponents, M stands for multiplication, D for division, A for addition, and S for subtraction. And what this mnemonic device helps you remember is the order in which you work out problems that are all jumbled together. That is, you work on what's in parentheses first if possible. After that, you look in the problem for exponents and then you solve for those. Then you do multiplication and division from left to right. And then finally, you would do addition and subtraction again from left to right. More often than not, I remember it by quickly writing this down, PEMDAS. Again, that's please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. And above the multiplication and division, I put a little arrow to remind myself that I work those out as they appear from left to right. And I also put an arrow over addition and subtraction to remind myself, again, that I work those out from left to right. In short, that's all the order of operations are. So that said, let's go ahead and do some practice with these. Again, in order to get good at using the order of operations, you have to do quite a bit of practice. And in this video, I'm going to do all the odd questions that appear. If you're following along at home, I strongly encourage you to make an effort to do these problems on your own. That way you can gauge how good you are at doing these. That said, let me zoom in since I've noticed a lot of people use mobile devices to watch my videos, and I want to make sure they can see it as well. So again, if you're watching at home, try to do these on your own. If you want to watch me do the first 5 so you can get a feel for it, that's fine. But again, try to work out these on your own. So starting with number 1, let me grab a thicker pen real quick. All right, so I'm going to work out all these problems without skipping any steps in light of the fact I don't know the backgrounds of people watching my videos. So I want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to see everything that's going on in these questions. And question 1 says 6 minus 15 divided by 3. 6 minus 15 divided by 3. And again, if it's helpful, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. As you'll see in all these problems today, I'm going to write this down. Again, I like to work out these problems step by step, and this simply helps me do that. And again, I'm going to put my little arrow over multiplication and division to indicate that we do those from left to right. So as I look at this problem, I'm scanning first for parentheses, and I do not see anything to work out in parentheses, so I can cross that out. Now I'm looking for exponents, and I don't see any in this problem as well. Then I'm looking for multiplication and division. I do have division, namely 15 divided by 3, as well as subtraction. As we can see, according to the order of operations, we do division before subtraction, so I'm going to go ahead and work that out as my next step. So this is going to be 6 minus, and then I'm going to work this out, 15 divided by 3, which is going to be 5. So I've worked out division. There's no multiplication, And now I'm just looking for addition and subtraction. There's no addition, so the final thing I'm going to work out is going to be subtraction. 6 minus 5 is just 1. Okay, so let's move on to number 3. And I'm going to go back to the thinner pen real quick. All right, number 3. That's 3 times 4 minus 7 minus negative 6. To start, I'm going to go ahead and write down the order of operations. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. That is, you do parentheses first, exponents next, multiplication and division as they appear from left to right, addition and subtraction as they appear from left to right. So let's look at this equation and see what we have. As you can see, we do have parentheses, so that's what we're going to start with. Namely, we're going to start by working out 4 minus 7, which is going to be negative 3. And then I'm just going to copy everything else down. All right, so as we can see, I worked out everything that was in parentheses. Now let's move on to looking for exponents. As we can see, there's no exponents here, so let's cross that out. Now we're doing multiplication and division from left to right. In this case, we have 2 instances of multiplication. We have 3 times negative 3, so right here. And then we also have this negative times negative 6. So this is another instance of multiplication. In light of that, we're going to work that out from left to right. And again, I'm not going to skip any steps as I do these. 3 times negative 3 is going to be negative 9. And let's just copy down what we have over here, minus negative 6. All right, let's work on this final instance of multiplication, namely negative times negative. So this is going to be negative 9. Negative times negative is going to be positive. So this is going to be positive 6. So this is negative 9 plus positive 6. Again, we're done with multiplication. There's no division. The last thing we have to do is addition. Negative 9 plus positive 6 is negative 3. Okay? So let's go ahead and erase these and move on to the next series of problems. And I'll say this. This is absolutely something you will see on the ASVAB. Again, the ASVAB is a computer adaptive test, which means it's a test that as you progress through it, gives you harder and easy questions based on how you're performing. In the very beginning of that test, you're more than likely going to get a question that regarding the order of operations. It's important that you get those right because, again, you want to score high. In order to score high, you got to get the easy questions in the beginning of the test, which are going to mirror what we're doing right now, correct. So just be mindful of that. Don't skip any questions, especially in the beginning of the test. Make an effort to get as many right as you can. I know when I took the test, I followed that strategy and scored very high. That's just my advice. Do as best as you can, especially early on. All right, so let's copy down number 5. Again, we're just doing the odd ones in this case. And number 5 is 7 minus negative 2 in parentheses cubed. Let's go ahead and start by writing down our order of operations. Namely, we look for parentheses first, exponents next, multiplication and division from left to right, addition and subtraction from left to right. In this case, we can see that there's nothing in parentheses to work out. That said, we can see that we have an exponent to deal with next. So that's what we're going to do. Let's copy everything down, excluding that exponent. Now we have negative 2 to the third power, which is the same as negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. This is going to be negative 2 times negative 2. That's going to be positive 4. Positive 4 times negative 2 is going to be negative 8. So this is going to become 7 minus negative 8. All right, so we did our exponents. As we can see, we kind of do have multiplication here. Again, we can take this negative and multiply or distribute it to this -8. So let's go ahead and do that. Next, this is going to be 7. -1 or negative times -8 is going to be positive. So this is going to be +8. So we did our multiplication there. As we can see, there's no division. The last thing we have to do is addition, namely 7 plus 8, which is 15. Okay, so that was that one. Let's go ahead and move on to 7 and 9. And as you can tell, these questions are getting progressively more difficult as we go through this practice test. Let's start 7 by, and let's go back to the thin pen. Let's start 7 simply by copying it down. Again, you don't want to get a question wrong on the ASVAB because you copied it down incorrectly, which does happen. So 7 is 2 times parentheses -6 plus 2 divided by 4. Again, as I said, I'm going to copy this down for every problem because if you follow the order of operations in using PEMDAS, you'll never get a question wrong. So again, I'm looking for parentheses first, exponents next, multiplication and division from left to right, and addition and subtraction as they appear from left to right. Let's look at this and see what we have. We can see we have parentheses, and in parentheses we have -6 plus 2. So without doing anything else, I'm going to work that out first. -6 plus 2 is -4. Again, this is divided by 4. So we worked on our parentheses. So let's look for exponents. As we can see, there are none, so we'll cross that out. Now we're doing multiplication and division from left to right. This is the first instance in which this is going to come into play. That is, we have multiplication here, notably 2 times -4, and then we have all this divided by -4. So again, we regard multiplication and division as equals. That is, we do them as they appear from left to right. So I'm going to do this multiplication first, and then I'll do this division next. 2 times -4 is -8. Again, that's divided by 4. So we did the multiplication. Now we can see we have division left. -8 divided by 4 is going to be -2. Okay? All right, let's move on to number 9. All right, let's copy it down. 8 minus -4 squared minus 5. Okay, to start, I'm going to simply write down the acronym for order of operations, namely PEMDAS. And again, I'm looking for parentheses first, exponents next, multiplication and division from left to right, addition and subtraction from left to right. As we can see, there's nothing in parentheses for us to work out, so let's look for some exponents next. We can see that we do have exponents, so instead of looking at anything else, I'm going to focus like a laser on my exponent there and work it out. This is going to be -8 minus, let's work out this exponent. -4 squared is the same as -4 times -4, which is going to be positive 16. Oh, and we're going to leave this negative hanging out there. So this is -8 minus 16, and then minus 5. All right, so we did our exponent. Now we're looking for multiplication and division from left to right. As we can see, there are none. That said, we have subtraction. And again, we work from left to right as we solve these. So we're going to do 8 minus 16 first, and then we'll take away 5 from that result. 8 minus 16 is going to be -8. Of course, that's minus 5. 8 minus 5 is -13. Okay, so that was that one. Let's move on to question 11. Let's start by copying it down. This is negative 3 cubed minus 6 times negative 2 minus 2. And again, to start, I'm going to simply write down the order of operations because I know in doing so, I'll never get one of these wrong, which means I'm going to do parentheses first, exponents next, multiplication and division from left to right, addition and subtraction from left to right. Let's look what we have in this one. We have no parentheses to work on, so we can cross that out. That said, we do have exponents, notably negative 3 cubed. And this is going to be a good chance for me to discuss what's going on there. There's a difference between this, negative 3 cubed and negative 3 cubed. Again, this says that the negative with 3 is being cubed. So that's going to be negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3, which is going to be negative 3 times negative 3. That's going to be positive 9 times negative 3 is going to be negative 27. This is much different. This really says negative 1 times 3 cubed. All right, so in light of that, this is how this would look. Negative 1 times 3 times 3 times 3. Okay, so this is negative 1 times 27, which is going to be negative 27. Okay, so just be mindful of that because that can affect how things come out as you work out these problems. In this case, it really didn't affect anything, but I just wanted to point out that there was a difference in how you work these out. Okay? All right, so let's work this one out. With that said, this is going to be, as I worked out over here, this is going to be negative 27 minus 6 times negative 2 minus 2. So we did our exponents. Let's look and see what we have next. We have multiplication right here, so we're going to do multiplication next according to the order of operations. Negative 27. Negative 6 times negative 2 is going to be positive 12. Again, minus 2. Now we have instances of addition right there and subtraction right there. According to the order of operations, we work out addition and subtraction as they appear from left to right. Again, they're like equals. So in this case, we're going to do this addition first and then the subtraction next. If this subtraction appeared before addition, I'd be doing the subtraction first. But negative 27 plus 12, that's the same as 27 minus 12. 7 minus 2 is 5. 2 minus 1 is 1. But negative, so this is negative 15 minus 2. In other words, this is negative 17. Okay, so that was 11. Let's go ahead and move on to 13 and 15. And I think in total there are 23 questions. We're going to go up to question 23. All right, so 13. Let's copy it down first. Negative 8, 2 minus 6 divided by 2. Again, I'm going to start by writing down my order of operations. And then I'm going to check off what I have, what I don't have, and what I need to work out in this order. So in this case, I'm looking for parentheses first. As you can see, we have 2 minus 6 in parentheses, so let's work out that first. 2 minus 6 is negative 4 divided by 2. So we did that. As we look through this problem, we don't see any exponents, so there's nothing to do there. Now we have to look for multiplication and division from left to right and addition and subtraction from left to right. Of course, we're doing multiplication and division first. In this case, we have multiplication right here and then division right here. Again, we do multiplication and division as they appear from left to right. So in light of that, we're going to do -8 times -4 first, and then the division. -8 times -4 is going to be +32. And then that's going to be divided by 2. That's the last thing to do. So 32 divided by 2 is 16. All right, let's move on to 15. And this is -8. 2 minus 5 divided by 4. Oh, divided by -4. Okay, again, I'm going to start by writing down the order of operations to do this one. And to start, I'm looking for things in parentheses first, which I have right here. 2 minus 5, so let's work that out. 2 minus 5 is -3. Again, that's divided by -4. Just like over here, we now have multiplication right here and division right here. We have no exponents, so we're moving on to multiplication and division. And again, we're working these out as they appear in the problem from left to right. So multiplication happened to come first. We'll do that first. -8 times -3 is going to be +24. And this, again, is going to be divided by -4. I'm going to drop those parentheses. They're really not serving any purpose in this problem. Now I can do this division here, which is going to be 24 divided by -4, or -6. All right, let's move on to 17. Again, after you do enough of these, you'll become very good at them, and you'll get those initial questions right on the ASVAB, which will help you achieve a score that hopefully lets you qualify for the specific career in the military you're interested in. And if you score too high, you'll have the problem of having too many jobs from which to pick. So let's go ahead and do 17. Let's copy it down first. This is 9 minus 3 times 6 divided by 2 in parentheses. Again, not surprisingly, I'm going to start by writing that down. After you do this video, you're just going to know to write this down to do these problems, which is great because, again, if you follow this order to work out these problems, you'll never make a mistake. I shouldn't say never. Your chances of making a mistake are almost nothing. All right, so let's look for parentheses first. We have 6 divided by 2, which we can work out. So this is 9 minus 3. 6 divided by 2 is going to be 3. So we did our parentheses first. We're scanning the problem for exponents. We don't see any. Now we're doing multiplication and division from left to right as they appear. In this case, we just have multiplication, notably -3 times 3. So we'll go ahead and do that. 9. -3 times 3 is going to be -9. So we did our multiplication. There's no division. Addition and subtraction now. We can see we just have subtraction left. 9 minus 9 is 0. Okay, so let's move on to 19 and 21. All right. Number 19. And I went back to that thick pen. I don't know what I'm doing today. 19 says 7 times 2 minus 5 times, let me make those a little bigger, times 3. Okay, let's write this down first. PEMDAS, again, in order as they appear from left to right for those two. So let's see what we have here. We have 2 instances of multiplication as well as subtraction. Of course, we do multiplication before addition and subtraction, so let's work out multiplication from left to right. 7 times 2 is going to be 14. Let me copy everything else down. And now I'm going to do this other multiplication in this problem before I move on to subtraction. This is going to be 14 minus 5 times 3, which is going to be 15. Okay, so we dealt with multiplication. All we have left is subtraction. 14 minus 15 is negative 1. Okay, so that was that one. Let's do 21. That's 2 to the third minus 6 times 2 plus 3. Let's write down our order of operations. Don't be tempted to try to do these in your head by not writing this down. I used to do that, and I used to make mistakes as I did these problems. Just write it down and go in order. Again, you want to get these questions right in the beginning of the test, as I mentioned, for the reasons that I mentioned previously in this video. So again, we're looking for parentheses, then exponents, then we're going to do multiplication and division from left to right as they appear, addition and subtraction from left to right as they appear. As we look at this one, we can see we have an exponent, subtraction, multiplication, and addition. And according to the operations, we do parentheses first. There's none of those. That said, there is an exponent, so we'll deal with that next. 2 to the third is the same as 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8, which is minus 6 times 2 plus 3. All right, so we're going to cross that out. Now we're looking at what we have left. We have multiplication, subtraction, and addition. Again, we know multiplication becomes before addition and subtraction. So let's look at that. This is going to be 8 minus 6 times 2 is going to be 12 plus 3. So we did our multiplication. There's no division to do in this problem. That said, we have addition and subtraction left. And as I keep mentioning, we do those as they appear from left to right. So we treat them as equals. In this case, subtraction comes first. So we'll do that first. Negative 8 minus 12 is going to be 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Negative 4 plus 3. So negative 4 plus 3 is negative 1. All right. Let's move on to the final problem in this video. All right, 23 is 1/3 minus 6 divided by negative 3. Again, we're going to do things according to the order of operations. And we're looking at this problem for parentheses. There are none, so we're not going to work on that. Now we're looking for exponents. We can see that we have 1 to the third power. So we have to deal with exponents before we can move on to multiplication and division. In this case, 1 to the third is the same as 1 times 1 times 1, which is just 1. So let's copy everything else down. All right, so we're looking at what we have left. We have subtraction and division. Again, multiplication and division comes before addition and subtraction. So we're going to do this division first. This is going to be 1 minus, again, this is negative 6 divided by negative 3. So that's going to be positive 2. Okay. And now we're going to do 1 plus 2, which is 3. All right, so that's it for today's video. Again, we discussed order of operations, which dictates how you solve problems that are jumbled up like the examples we saw in today's video. Again, as I mentioned, this is a very basic math concept, and it should, more often than not, appear in the very beginning of your mathematics knowledge subtest. In light of that, you want to make sure that you take the time to get these right. That way you can achieve as high of a score as possible. That said, I hope you found this video helpful. If you like the content I'm creating, you're more than welcome to subscribe to my channel. In addition, it's always helpful to get some feedback in the comment section below. But on that note, I'm going to go ahead and cut you loose. こんにちは。